start the conversation, and then we can share it on our YouTube channel for our friends. So can we start?
Sure.
I will admit I'll admit the friends whoever is joining. I'll be watching that also. So thank you all for joining. Good evening. This is a Social Justice Film Festival from Marupakkam, Chennai. And first time we are doing both online and offline. It is a kind of a new formula that we actually found out in this process, in this whole time of lockdown. We never done this together. So I think, just hold on. Somebody hitting the.
You can mute everyone, Amudhan.
Yes. But they will mute. They can mute their own. Yes, he just left. He just left. I think Nimi's phone was on. Yeah. So we have not done this whole thing together. It's the first time we are doing. And incidentally, the online screening has been quite a success. I think we received more than 1,500 views, and yeah, offline has been little disappointment. That's one thing. The other thing is Social Justice Festival becomes little relevant in Tamil Nadu because the newly elected DMK government announced this September 17th as Social Justice Day, celebrating Periyar's 143rd birthday. So it became a coincidence here. Yeah. To start with, let me just, the thing is, we can, I will invite all the filmmakers to say a few words about the film, their film that we are showing in this festival, and the whole experience, like, like how we started, how we have shown. When you must have seen some like, for example, Pankaj must have seen this film after a long time, personally also, after a break. So when you look at your film after some time, what do you think about the film? And just can you just reflect? So let me start alphabetically, or not alphabetically. I'll start with my whatever. Let me start. I think who joined in the beginning? I think Uma joined. So let me start with Uma.
Okay.
Uma, yes.
Actually, see, my film, I shot in almost 10 years ago, and we had made a SD version. Thanks to you, I sat down and converted everything into HD version, and my Mac I had not touched for 3 years. I was quite depressed, so didn't feel like doing anything. I only go to Facebook every day, spend quite a few hours on it, and share. So I feel quite alive because of this festival, and because of which I opened my Mac. This is something all of you may know, but I didn't realize. When you open your Mac after a long time, in case you forget to take out the batteries in your wireless keyboard and your wireless mouse, it leaks and it doesn't work. So I had to run and get a wireless. For the first time, I went to the market, bought these things, set it all up. So, Amudhan, I'm very thankful to you. I feel much better just looking at the machine and working on it. And I'm much more relaxed at home. Really thanks to you. Thank you very much. I feel so much better. Just looking at, just touching the machine and, clicking a few keys. Yeah, thanks. Regarding the film, I have always liked my film, whether others like it or not. But when I worked on it now, for almost 2 days I worked on it. I just like the film very much. And I almost feel I'm no longer the person who made that film. Not no longer, but I feel so much disconnected. Not at a feeling level, but it seems from another era, It doesn't seem, but at the same time, I also realized all we need to do is just, in case you want to say something, it's so easy to say it. It is not difficult. But taking that first step is what matters. Like, for example, when I looked at the footage, I realized we shot only for 7 days. Just 7 days. 8 hours of footage. The film is 1 hour long. So you can imagine the length of each shot, which I still think is the right length. It required that kind of length to give it that kind of a stay, whatever the characters were doing or saying or whatever. So I just, once again, I fell in love with my film. Thank you, Amudhan.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's
Thank
such
you,
a
Ma.
touching account.
Yes. Yeah. So can I invite Hansa, please?
I have little to say after that. My film is more recent, but it is a film that meant a lot to me because I was making a film after a long time. And Amudhan has been very kind with the film and he's enjoyed the film. And I think I've enjoyed his enjoyment of this film a lot. I was just telling a friend today. I said, I feel happy that this film about dolls and doll makers is in the social justice package of films. Not because I feel that there wasn't anything which was about social justice, but I just, it's like a gentle note which was appreciated, and I'm very appreciative of that. Thank you, Amudhan.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, but it had. I think all the films had have a connection with the social justice in one way or the other. At least if you remember Hansa, your film, the film, a little story. She talks about the girl who disappeared.
Oh no, absolutely. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hope it was even more than that. That brought
No,
the film
just
in.
one example. Throughout
Yeah,
the film.
sure,
Throughout the,
sure.
even
I hope the heart of it had that sentiment.
Even an experience was more kind, about very gentle and kind. Yeah. So let me just invite Nishtha, please. Nishtha, I think we showed your film last, showed this film in the last Chennai festival as part of a retrospective. But I just wanted to show that actually I discovered your film only recently. I had shown your other films, but I like this film, so that's why I wanted to. I thought I have underused this film. I wanted to show more, and it directly involved with workers and marginalized communities. So Nishtha, please.
No, so this is an old film. I shot it in 2006, 2007, edited it. Was premiered in 2009. So it's actually one of the oldest films that was shown in this festival. But I think what happens with this film is that it's post what happened last year with migrant workers. There is a lot of focus and, kind of connection to the people that we, sort of invisible workers in our cities. So I think that's also part of why people sort of responding to this film much more than they have done in the past. But it's one of my favorite films, because it also follows on the heels of Lakshmi and Me, which was like a international co-production. And this is a film where I wanted to do the same film differently, but about men. So it's about people in your, microcosm, which is a housing society. And these are not people who enter your home, maybe just a delivery boy or something, but all these men, and their lives. So, and then I edited it myself. I think there's something of a connection that I have with this film, which even much more then, I'm not in this film, my voice is there, but, and I'm, of course, it's my viewpoint, but I have it has a very interesting distribution history. Of course, it didn't go to many festivals and all, but what happened was that one of the protagonists took it upon himself, the watchman, to take this film to these, video halls that are there in UP and Bihar, everywhere. And this film was really shown to the people. Like, he would go from video hall to video hall and all these places, and then he would keep on sending me like newspaper cuttings of each of these screenings. and what the audience response was often, and why does somebody want to make this film about us, इस तरह के भी response होते थे, like but and then he suddenly disappeared and I never got in touch. I could, because his number changed. So it's kind of weird. I often think whenever I see this film, I really miss Gayal and think about him as to what happened to him. But there's no way of getting in touch.
Okay. Thank you, Nishtha. So can I invite Sushma, please? Sushma, actually, we showed this film a long time back in our festivals, but somehow I just missed it out for long. I had this film with me. Somehow I just, but this time when I was trying to look for films, this is one of those first films I actually wanted to show this film. And in our context, it's very interesting because although the film talks about Kannadiga identity, linguistic identity, it had interesting reactions from Tamil Nadu. People, although so you have this Tamil Kannadiga rivalry, and when we see this film, people could identify with the auto drivers and the quote unquote common Kannadiga people. It was a very interesting experience, when we showed that film. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I remember that the screening at Madurai, which I had come for, it was a fantastic interaction, is what I remember. But for me now, I mean, yes, it's kind of almost a decade old film. I think 2012, 2013. And what is nice is about 3-4 years back, I had Jissy, who's moved to Bangalore now. She worked on the soundtrack. The film, the few of us at Bangalore, the Vikalp gang in Bangalore, PVR was going to kind of have this, it was kind of an experiment where documentaries were going to be shown through a day, and this was going to be a ticketed show. So I said, okay, if it's going to be a PVR screen, I might as well kind of, I had a little bit of money then. So I had worked on the soundtrack, and I was very fortunate to have Jissy look at it and work on it. So after which, the PVR screening didn't happen, but so the film didn't really kind of, even despite the sound work that I did, I couldn't show it anyway. So when you said you want to show it, I was most thrilled because I was really waiting to kind of have an audience for it again. So again, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. I think when you go for a quote unquote package of films under a particular theme, then you actually discover so many films. In our regular festivals, we usually show the recent films, or when we go for retrospective, of course, we might go for the collection of films by an anthology of films by filmmakers. When we go for these thematic festivals, we get the opportunity, from a curator point of view, get the opportunity of showing films, old, new, recent, made films by anybody. The theme becomes the priority. So it gives an opportunity to actually screen old films also. So thank you very much for immediately accepting and sharing the film with us. Yes. Now can I invite Pankaj? I think Pankaj was there in Madurai. We had his retrospective almost 7, 8, 10 years back.
I think it's 10 years ago. Yeah, you're right. Probably 2011 or something. It's quite a long time ago.
Yes. But we didn't show this film, Pankaj. Did we show? We showed the other films.
I can't remember. You made the selection. I made the films available to you. So I today don't remember. I'll have to look at the booklet. And I didn't look at my films there. I saw some other films.
I've shown your Manipur song regularly.
Yeah, and you showed, I think that time I'm not sure if I'd done the Kashmir film. I can't remember, but anyway.
No, it was not there. It was not there. Manipur song I've shown on 3-4 occasions actually.
Yeah,
Tell us about the film and.
Well, this is my second film, and people are talking about having made a film 7 or 8 years ago, and it's long ago, and this was made exactly 30 years ago. This is 91. I finished it in early 92, but it's a 91 film because I made it for Channel 4, and it was shown on Channel 4 in 91 December. So I mean, 30 years ago, it was actually screened also. This is, as I said, this was my second film. I made a small film with Ranjan as my cameraman, and Mohanan had come as assistant cameraman, and Rajamani, I forgot his full name, the sound recordist.
Suresh.
Suresh was the sound recordist for that one. But this one, then I found, when I did Hamlet, I found that it was my first film. I had no experience. And I felt that I started shooting too soon. I said, this is a problem. I should have started shooting when I stopped shooting. So I decided that, okay, maybe now what I'll do is I'll wait. So for this film, we spent a long time. We shifted to Vrindavan, took a house there and lived there for something like 7 or 8 months, and started going into the various ashrams where the widows were, and got them so used to us that we became part of the furniture, So we could go and come out, talk to somebody, and all their suspicions also started sort of disappearing. And then we slowly negotiated with them. I started working on the film. And I actually decided to go with Piyush Shah rather than Ranjan, because I didn't know Piyush. I knew Ranjan very well. But I also felt that, seeing Piyush's films with money, I felt that Piyush has a slight distance as a cameraman. Ranjan is involved. Ranjan likes to go close to people. And this film was, I felt intuitively so emotionally overwhelming potentially that it needed a cameraman who would be able to keep me away from becoming too close and overwhelming the film. So I think somehow that worked. So I worked with, we had lots of little fights, but that's a minor thing. We shot over something like 6 months, and finally, took a long time. Meera was my editor. We finished the film. And because it's the only film for which I had money, really. Everything else I've done, I've had no money. But this one, I had a lot of money, I don't know where it's gone, but I had a lot of money that time. So I had the luxury of being able to take a 16mm negative, and it was negative since it was all on film. So, which is why another reason why you had to be very careful how you shot. And, we had to shoot indoors in these dingy halls. So I brought a friend of mine who used to be a theater lighting person. And he came and actually installed lightings all over. Very small, minuscule bulbs and shades, which didn't affect the daily functioning of the place, but which provided me nooks and crannies in which I could switch on a light and focus only there when the camera was going, and then turn it off. And then, we made quads all over the place and managed to do that. So it is like my feature film, which came much later, it was something for which the shooting had to be planned very carefully. Whatever idea strikes you, discuss with the camera person, and then make sure, you're lighting in the right areas. Otherwise, I've never really had to bother about, in documentaries, never really had to bother about light, do with whatever natural light is available, or at most have a small light on the camera. So the budget allowed it, time allowed it. I had the luxury of doing whatever I wanted. So I was able to do it. And in retrospect, which is now 30 years later, I can say I still like the film very much. Okay, I must have seen it about 1 million times, and that time it did almost every single film festival in the world, and there were very, very good responses, which made me feel nice and made me actually also feel I don't want to do a documentary ever again. I felt I had put my heart and soul in this film. I didn't want to do any more, So then I sort of started dreaming about fiction, which happened and then stopped. That's another matter. But I look at it film again and again, and I think except for a couple of shots which I feel are excessive and a bit too long. I mean, it's an 84-minute film on film and 80-minute on video. But I would, if somebody asked me to knock off something today, I would knock off 4 minutes, maybe at most 4 or 5 minutes. And I think I'd feel content with the rest. So it's something that has left me with feeling that, okay, it was something that I felt I did justice to, So I didn't fall in the same trap that I was in my first film of letting go too early. So that's basically.
Thank you, Pankaj. Yeah. To be fair to other filmmakers, I would also want to invite others also to elaborately explain like this. They can. I will definitely come back to you again. Can I go to Mr. Swarnavel? Swarnavel, vanakkam. Swarnavel.
Vanakkam, Amudhan. Great to meet all of you. I've seen, of course, Pankaj sir's film, and I also cited his essay on Hiram in one of the articles I wrote. I also seen Nishtha's work, and I would like to see the works of others. I'm sure it would be of great interest to me and my students as well, because we opened with in-person classes just 2 weeks back. I couldn't really watch, even though it was a golden opportunity. It was online as well, along with being offline. But I would catch up. So coming back to my film, it also follows, in the footsteps of, Pankaj and Uma and others, that also Nishtha, because it's also a very old film, that is, it's also, it was shot on PD 170, prior to the times of the high definition, in standard definition with the tape. So it was also one-man crew. Essentially, the film was, that I had worked in Anand Vigadan, one of our major publishing houses, when they started their television wing, as their creative, advisor, that kind of a post. So I had connection, with journalists. So when I, came for summer, then one of my friend who is from my village, nearby my village, Rajanarayanan, he took me, he told me about Nagapattinam and, the devastation caused by the tsunami the day after, Christmas, in 2004. So this was in 2005 summer when I was there. Then, I know that my friend who is also a colleague of Amudhan and Leena, who, were and are in the forefront, next to my generation of Tamil documentary filmmakers. So I approached, R.R. Srinivasan. He had a good connection with Revati, who is the NGO spokesperson in my film. So then we went there, and then that is how, this film had its provenance. So initially I had, had a very small camera, and I was doing entirely, a one-man crew kind of, so every 2 years I used to go. I was interested because they said, that for the first time, government has opened up the NGOs to contribute and participate. And because of, all these internets and all coming at that point of time, there was this other side, the good side of globalization, which we generally as scholars do not acknowledge, that money could pour in from all over the world. For example, I was very moved when I read that there was a group of German children who contributed their pocket money for that month, and they were sending this money. So it was, therefore I thought, that we should also document where all this money goes, when they claim this huge, like something like, $80 million or more, had come, I'm not exactly, no, it's not because this I made a long time back, but a huge amount of money, So I was interested in documenting, does all this really filter through and reach this, fisher folk who've been affected, heavily. Also because, so I myself had this, overwhelming moments, I would say. I went to a place which was called Annai Satya Illam. It was an orphanage where, Radhakrishnan was our collector at that point of time. I had put in, 100 orphan children who lost their entire family, their father, mother, and their siblings in the 22 minutes, when tsunami struck. So these were, the youngest children in the family, and they were left at home because the mother went with the elder sibling to receive the fish, the catchment. which is brought by uncles and fathers in that early morning, because they go around 2 a.m., 3 a.m., they come back around that, 9 o'clock. And it was between that 9 to 9:30. So the waves came in two huge chunks, and it took away the father, who was almost reaching the shore, and the mother and the elder sibling. So it was like, so I thought, this was not like, my typical other documentary. This was more like, I wanted to document with my camera, mostly about, talking at interviews, but, these faces were not merely talking heads. So there was this other side to, the great icons like Antonioni, that if a face could be an extension of a landscape, then I was interested in documenting, these faces, at that moment. So I went, every alternate year, and I used to shoot, and mainly I used to show this stuff because I teach documentary classes here. So it was mostly about, that teaching certain kind of theoretical, recent, rich theory in documentary, where they talk about the hierarchy of power, but then also undermining it, how there can be moments when you can stand with the camera and you can be at a loss for questions, because you are overwhelmed. Of course, you go with your, neat research and planning and all that smartness. But that also shows up, initially when you are asking this question. But after a moment, when you are staying with that, then it is lost. So it was like this kind of, so I went, every alternate year till 2014 December, when they had this 10th anniversary. So I had, by that time, this kind of 6 one-hour films, which also traveled in festivals. It was shown, in this very prestigious Chicago Tamil Forum, as its inaugural, section, and the Crossing Border Seminar at Iowa, and so many places it traveled. But then finally I thought of, putting all these chunks together and, to make one film, so that, people who are interested in this discourse, who want to also later, if they will be making, some films on disaster management, it could contribute also regarding the discourses surrounding, NGOs, because I myself have, very split views, as it can be seen in my film through the voice of, Revati, who is running, according to me, one of the most humane, NGOs, in a very committed way. Over the last, she went like me, and she settled down there, starting with school. Unlike me, who then came out as a filmmaker, she has done, more humane, more committed, thing. Her school is still there, it's called Swarnavel School, Revati School. So on the one hand, I know that when Films Division stopped funding us, and we found it difficult, particularly late 80s, early 90s. Then I saw then my next generation of friends, like Amudhan, Alina Manimegale, R.R. Srinivasan, also using those funds of NGOs productively, making the kind of films, they were wanting to do. So there was also this aspect, and also questioning the state, which was possible because of this space from which they were working. You get my point. On the other hand, you have, like Revati herself, she's always suspicious, she's always critical. So, that is in my film. While at the same time, I also saw another thing, that there was a gentleman within the state, government, Collector Radhakrishnan, So he was doing, something, which was equally humane, with all the limitations of being in the state and, and lending his voice. And he had already done it in Kumbakonam, where in a school fire accident, a lot of children, unfortunately, and then he came here to Nagapattinam. So I also wanted, to give him a voice in my film. So then this version is, about this kind of a light dialectical, you can say a conversation between the state and the NGO, and both of them, at some level, have my respect, that Revati and, Radhakrishnan. So that is how I built this whole film. And so I'm thankful to Amudhan, and for screening it. So I know that, Amudhan has screened it. This is the second time he's screening it. Somewhere, it resonates, with people. And I remember, like earlier time when we screened, I was there in Chennai at the same Periyar Thidal, like a homage to Periyar. And that also is very special for me. And I am also grateful to all of you, that being in the documentary movement, and contributing to it. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Swarnavel. Can I invite Pramod Dev? Pramod film, we showed 3 Cube. Pramod, I know I showed this film 10 years back, I think. It's also one of the very old, and again, an old film. And I've shown it very few occasions, but that's the actually I gave myself an opportunity to actually look at the other films which I have not used much, and I wanted to go back to films and see, the whole as Hansa pointed out, when I curated this whole package, basically it was like I imagined a seminar on social justice, so that each and every film will contribute in a different way holistically to the festival. In that sense, Pramod Dev film directly talks about 3 working women and their struggle and their day-to-day life. So can I invite Pramod Dev?
Hi, thank you, Amudhan. This is, in fact, you showed the film at the Madurai International Film Festival in 2013, I think, first. That's where, and it was really great that I could get a call from you. And I mean, it's really happy to see that somebody remembers the films and recalls even after so many years. In fact, that's something good. Yeah, the film actually, it was based on some of the research that I have done when I was a researcher in my previous life, so to say. So in typical fashion, NGOs and all were ready to fund the research projects, and I was actually fed up as a researcher to, with writing reams and reams of papers and it not reaching anywhere. So in fact. My funder, Henrik Boll Foundation, which is one of the best funders I have actually found, they were ready to fund another research project since I was actually working on women's issues, gender issues, and especially international trade issues and all in Delhi. So they were ready to fund another film. And I told them that if if you are going to do another research report, it is not going to gather dust in some bookshelves and will not reach anywhere. So why can't we convert that into a film itself? Like, because we have done a lot of research and also we have a lot of ideas, people and all. Why can't we? So they were actually in that way. If you usually, when you suggest something like this to funders, they were very coy about it because their primary objective is to avoid risk. Risk of a project not being completed is the biggest problem that the funders they're facing. They can do a very bad project, but a project not finishing is very, very difficult for them. But they took upon the challenge despite the fact that I was not experienced or whatever. Then they said, okay, we go ahead and see what we can do. And then, so that's, in fact, we shot the film in 2010 and 12, between 2010 and 11. Though all the research and everything is like Hitchcock said, no, in feature film, the director is God. In documentary, God is the director. So it is something like that only. However hard we tried, planned and all, nothing worked on the ground level because people, we had fixed up interviews and all with everybody, and kind of scenario even in Tirupur, people were very afraid of speaking to us on camera. Even in we were very difficult to find somebody from Northeast who was working in Delhi and things like that. So it was basically, it actually took care of itself in the ground. So it was like even though all the planning was there, it did not work out the way it is there. Though actually more than me being the director, the film directed itself because it had its own course. But only we had a outline of how the film would be. What we wanted to do was that what we were sure about, that it will be about three different people. Actually, for me as a director, filmmaker, it is a story of the same woman, told through 3 different phases. Like if you notice their ages, times and all, nothing actually intercuts. Their age is, one is a unmarried, Northeastern girl from, Manipur, who's coming and residing in Delhi and, taking out her living. And another is a married mother of 2 kids, Tirupur lady, textile worker. And a third one is a kind of a destitute fish worker woman who actually goes into, work in the night. all of them actually connected through somehow they are directly or indirectly they are related to international trade, and they almost all of them work in non-working hours, which is meant for women, especially night. So that is something very interesting. So we actually wanted all of them to come together in the night itself and then tell their story sitting in different parts of the India and intercutting between these two. So that's how it worked. But in the if you actually notice the films, the angles that, so we had a little awareness about how the angles should be. Like men, usually the camera looks at women from a top angle down, and men actually looking into the camera from a top angle. That's how we actually said so to see that, show the power relations, sort of say. We had very good crew members like Vinod Raja, who's he himself is a very good director, acclaimed director. He directed Mahua Memoirs and things like that. And then we had Harikumar Madhavan Nair. He's also a national award winner and things like that. So we had a very good crew members. And me and my co-director John Lucius were the least experienced people around, and we had to shoot it at that time. Shooting it in the night was a little challenge because we did not have any of the lights or things like that. We were shooting in the natural lights. So, but Vinod somehow managed that how to do it and things like that. So it was that way. It's just very sometimes people do, whatever we planned, like in Tirupur, we were chased away by the textile factory owners when they found out that we were shooting outside there. I was actually waiting for that iconic shot of workers coming out of the Tirupur factory, the factory, the first shot or whatever. So I wanted to recreate, and we were actually hiding in a car and shooting. Somehow they got to know, and then they sent some goons, and also we know that everybody had to run away from that place. So we know this is quite familiar with that kind of thing. We were not, So that way, it was very thing. But finally, somehow we could get together and do it traveling across India. So that way it was done. But finally when the structure was done, and then we finally made it into that kind of a film where I re-edited it in 2015, which is a version which is shown. There's a shorter version. Original film is 43 minutes. It is a little didactic kind of, debating kind of thing, because it was the audience it was meant for was an academic audience. Like many of the people actually, it had its own impact in the sense many of the people who would actually watch the film were, researchers and NGO circle and academic circle and things like that. They were also finding it very, very interesting that this kind of things were, it's actually happening. Like last month, I had a screening with students from LSR college, and they were also looking at the film and those kind of. So that's the power of the film, and it still resonates with people from all over the place. Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to show it again.
Right. Incidentally, we know the short Sushma's film. Sushma's film we are showing here.
Oh, okay.
Yes, he has.
So yeah.
And we continue to work together even now.
Yeah.
Yes, we can exchange notes now.
Glad to know that he's also a very close friend. And he's.
Okay, yeah. He shot another. I mean, whenever I could afford other crew members, we would get people together, because usually it is not that. We have worked in another film also again after this.
Thank you. So let me invite Debaranjan. Debaranjan, I'm sure we all know Debaranjan. Debaranjan is from Odisha, and he's been making like serious activist films. He has always made films about tribals facing onslaught from corporate companies from the state in Odisha. And Debaranjan, can I invite Debaranjan?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Achha. Thank you, Amudhan, choosing this film.
Yes.
Uh, what will I say about my film? This is not, yeah, I am not a trained person per se to make films and
Tell us
I
about your
do-
films. The list of films, I find it very interesting because all the films were essentially about the fight, struggle between the tribal people and the state, tribal people versus corporate companies. So this is part of,
communalism also.
yeah. So I see this film as part of the whole. So tell us about that.
Before that, actually, I will thank Pramod and others. They know Vinod Raj. Because they are also, he is my friend also. And Mahua Memoirs done on the area I was spending and the area on the area Kasipur and Niyamgiri, where my films are also based on. So there's thank Pankaj and then Pramod that they know also Vinod. And I got the film camera idea from actually Vinod. Vinod, I was traveling with him all these areas, and I have observed him. So that way I did the film. And my films are not on that a documentary filmmaker perspective. It is an activist because I have spent years together in that areas, and we have fought, we have been attacked, we have been arrested. I have spent in jails. So these are the stories actually. Before me, the firing have started. We have lost the lives. So and the one thing I felt either in the Kandhamal non-Christian violence, anti-Christian violence, or in the Niyamgiri area, or in the Kasipur area, or anti-Posco area, anti-bauxite mining area. Only thing I saw if I don't do the camera, if I don't record it, then the mainstream media will not give importance to these type of things. And one day our future generation will be in dark, and they will know that the corporates are the masiha. They will know that without corporate the development can't be possible. So that I felt, and then I, with a short camera, I did the film, and with help of very untrained people. But thanks to Deepu of Pedestrian Pictures, he gave me a foundation to this filmmaking, because first film I did with him, the anti-Christian violence Kandhamal. Since then, I have been doing my work with help of our Odisha activist. So these are the areas I am doing now. Right now, I did not get the opportunity to, not the time to watch Pankaj's film, because Mukhya, actually I am doing a documentary film on widow practices in Puri area. I belong to that town, but I have not yet completed. If I get the opportunity, I will once watch his film, what he has done at the Vrindavan. And those stars in the sky, I can say one thing, if you have seen Anand's film Vivek, and I have asked him also, what about the economic aspect of these rightist forces? What they say, look at the corporations. And he agrees that part is missing in Vivek. And in those stars in the sky, is that how the Modi government is behaving with how the Modi government is run by the corporations, how the Modi government is how the corporations are winning over the Modi government. And in my film also, that communal party is not missing. So if you watch Vivek and those stars at a time, you will see what the rightist forces are. So that is about the film. And in future, I can, if some of the filmmakers are here, I can propose one or two things, if you, Amudhan, permit me. If collectively we can make films, like regarding the black laws, because I am part of the human rights movement, and I feel often ki, why we not make any film on UAPA? Suppose in Tamil Nadu, in Madhya Pradesh, in Odisha, in West Bengal, in Andhra Pradesh, everywhere the tribals, Dalits and minorities are getting targeted by this black law, and the black law is getting more and more draconian. Unless it was more Pota and Tada is much worse than Pota and Tada. If we can collectively make 2-3 people come forward and do a film, then it will be helpful to the rights movement. Like and in a and less cost, because I am familiar with the all faces and the background of the Odisha activists, those are targeted, but I am not much familiar with the MP, because a lot of Muslims are getting targeted by the European MP, and not in Kerala also. But that aspect can be taken over by the serious filmmakers from that area. So that is one thing also can be, if can be done, then it will give a more ideas and more message to the public. That's a proposal. Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks a lot. Can I invite Meera Chaudhary? Meera Chaudhary co-directed the film Indana Muzaffarnagar. We have shown their film Supradeep Chakraborty, and Meera Chaudhary directed the film, and we have shown his retrospective after he passed away. We showed the collection of this film. I'm showing this film after a long time. So thank you, Meera, for sharing the film with us. Thank you for joining the discussion. Please go ahead, Meera.
I came little late and I'm thinking that you're calling me little early. So
no, you are the last. I'm calling.
Okay, I'm last. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Then it's a justice done.
Yeah, justice is done. Yeah.
So first of all, I want to thank you, Amudhan, to you and your team for organizing the screening of this film, which hasn't seen the daylight so far. So this is the first online screening of this film. And you took this risk in a way.
No, you warned me. Yeah, I know you warned me.
So first of all, congratulations to all the filmmakers here and all the viewers who watched the film. Thank you to all of them, and thank you, Amudhan. And I always feel that this is my favorite quote, that justice is not done anywhere in the world. It's like we are making fun of the justice. But yes, the film is shown in the Justice Film Festival. So there is Justice Film Festival. So to start with, this is my third film with Subhradeep, but first as a co-director. Before that, I worked in 2 other films as a creative assistant. I started working as a creator. I don't have any background in filmmaking. And fortunately, I met Subhradeep, and we started working together. And I must say that when I started, I had I gained more experience in the starting with the post production. But in this film, I started from scratch, and I was given the responsibility of doing the research and to coordinate all the meetings. And it was everything was new for me, and it was like I was thrown in the river, and I started swimming, and Subhradeep was there just watching what is happening. And if there is any problem, then he used to tell me that, Meera, let's do this way or that way. So it was a very subtle way of not just filmmaking, but learning it as well. The most subtle way, I would say that. So I had a very wholesome experience, from research to A to Z experience of documentary filmmaking. I really want to thank Subhradeep. So I consider him not only as my husband, lover, partner, but as guru also in terms of filmmaking. So to tell you about this film, how the idea of filmmaking, this film came. I am from, my parents are Muzaffarnagar, and so when these riots happened, it was very strange for us because we never heard riots happening in Muzaffarnagar particularly. Meerut, which is in the vicinity of Muzaffarnagar, Meerut has been very popular throughout for the riots. So I told Shubhradeep if he can do a film, and he said, Meera, I've already done so many films on riots and issues of communalism that people have started targeting me that why you are pro-Muslims. So I just requested Shubhradeep, let's do it. Let's find out. And it all started when we got the video. There is a video which was circulated by the BJP leader, and this video is from Pakistan. Basically, it is a real video, but it is shown as a video wherein 2 Hindu boys being killed by the Muslim mob. But actually, this video is from Pakistan. It has got nothing to do with the incident, the Kadavallur incident that happened. So when we saw that video, immediately this video came because I'm from a Jat family, and there is a majority community in that area is Jats, and this riots happened majorly between Jats and Muslims. So when we saw that video, my parents showed me that video and they said, look what is happening in this area. And immediately Shubhradeep, by pointing out the dress of the mob, he said that these Muslims are not from Muzaffarnagar. And from there, the interest in the film came that this is a fake video being circulated, and it has become the reason. It basically instigates many Hindus, Jats community over there, and then the major riots started taking place. And then we decided that yes, we are going to investigate it. So we reached there after a month, and I must say that the whole experience was very adventurous. So for us, these riots happened in 8 villages. 8 villages wherein the Pasmanda Muslims, the very poor community of Muslims, were killed and victimized. In 2 days riots, total 60 people died, maybe more than that, because there were reports that even after those 2 days, the deaths kept happening, and it were not reported because by that time the government, the administration were jaag gaye. So they didn't want this because they already got such a bad name. They were not able to control it. So wo jaagne ke baad, they decided that no more deaths will be reported in the media as such. So we wanted to know how and why these riots started in an area which is still till today known as Mohabbat Nagar. Muzaffarnagar was known as the Mohabbat Nagar. So ऐसा क्या हुआ वहाँ पे कि वो riots शुरू हो गए वहाँ पे. And सुना तो था that riots are engineered, but अब देख भी लिया, when you yourself get into that situation, you can make out, when you are doing point by point investigation, you can make out that these riots were engineered. It was adventurous in the sense that there was a lot of danger in going to those villages, talking to them why, it is like so many Muslims are being killed, why you have done this and that. So we were a bit tactful when we went over there, and interesting told this to media, but if I go into the nitty-gritties of our investigation, we hide our identity. We were the filmmakers, we were the team from the BBC, and we just told them that we want to know your side of truth, because the other side of truth many journalists, media people, they are going to the camps, and camps are approachable. Muslims, so many Muslims, they shifted to the camps. They left their villages out of fear. I think some from 150 villages, Muslims came out and left their villages and stayed in camps for the next 2-3 months. Most of them went to their relatives far away. So such was the atmosphere there. So we first went to the camps. It was easily accessible, and we got the stories from the people that this is what happened in their village, this is what happened in that village, this village. And the real challenge before us was we tried to collate those stories with our previous secondary research that we have already done while reading newspapers, reading all the online reports, and the reports brought up by the independent civil society people. They went into the groups and brought out the reports. So we try to collate that what people are saying and what these reports are saying. And we found out that some of the incidents were really true. And then we went to those villages and tried to find out. And we have shown only those incidents for which we got the interviews of the culprit, the victims. There is no other viewpoints in the film of any fourth party, fifth party, or people from civil society. And because there is all, we try to follow as much as ethics in bringing out the truth. When you know the riots happened between two communities, then these communities are having a lot of enmity comes, and they try and they keep on throwing stories, and they keep on calling each other with names. Ye to aise hain, ye to aise hain. So as a filmmaker, as an investigator, something serious has happened, and it was our responsibility to bring out the truth, to not to take the side of this community or that community. And so that was a major challenge. That was a major challenge before us. And I still remember it was there were winter days, and our crew was always, I must say, I must be thankful to my crew that they were ready to come and join us. And but somewhere there was always fear when we were going to the villages, Jat villages, and there was a fear in their mind that we are going to riot hit villages. And I think we were the before that, before our film, we haven't seen any interviews of the Jats, and specifically those villages where the riots happened. We haven't seen. So we were able to capture the reality of both the sides. And one important thing is that a culprit will never say that I have done this, but he will always give some kind of book, some kind of story. So as a viewer, you can make out that person is telling the truth or not. So we left it on the audience to make out, where are the fault lines and how things happen. I just want to say that unfortunately Shubhradeep is not here, but together we had a great time, and I learned a lot. It was like a film school for me. I call it Shubhradeep Chakravarti Film School. So it was Shubhradeep's 5th film. And and then it is there everywhere in the media that we did not get the censor certificate and what happened later on. So one really unfortunate thing that happened throughout in the last 6 years, that I'm not able, despite me trying and approaching people It's a very sad state of affairs that I'm not even able to do many private screening. Like whenever I go to any state, I always approach the people, the civil society there, the filmmaker groups, and I tell them, okay, call 15 people, 20 people, 30 people, and let's watch this film. I myself have carried that projector on the bike from Ahmedabad to Vatwa village, which was 2 hours of distance, to show the film. But I have seen a lot of enthusiasm when I have shown the film among the viewers. After, it's a 2.5 hour long film. It's a long film. In the current context, it's a long film. But the viewers, they are ready to, discuss it with me after that. I remember वहाँ पे हमारा ये स्क्रीनिंग हुई थी अहमदाबाद में. there was a theater, और रात के 11:45 हो गए थे वो डिस्कशन करते करते, और उसके बाद उन्होंने कहा कि आप मीरा डोंट वरी, वी विल गेट यू ड्रॉप्ड. तो लेकिन उस तरीके का मैं ये कहूंगी कि बहुत कम इंस्टीट्यूशंस में स्क्रीनिंग हो पाई है. तो ये एक बड़ी दुख की बात है कि इतनी मेहनत के साथ फिल्म बनाई गई, और शुभ्रदीप की सारी फिल्मों में वो मेहनत रिसर्च को लेके दिखती है, तो वो फिल्म हम नहीं दिखा पाए बहुत ज्यादा जगह. तो but I'm glad, I'm happy that you are showing the film online. So thank you. This is
thank you. Thank you, Meera. Yeah. So now I think Uma started and Sushma continued. I think Uma spoke very little, so I'll ask her to, if she wants to add more before I ask the audience, the viewers, to ask questions. Uma?
Yeah. See, we set out to shoot many things. Half of the story we couldn't do because the character just didn't want to do except like that. But I can only talk about my friend Anupama Srinivasan, who did the camera work for this film. It was just 2 women team. We were shooting at night only, like Pramod. I talked about this film. The film is about people who work in the streets of Delhi at night. To my surprise, and it was just cool, there's no problem. Even when I did the recce, I would set out from home at 10, come back at 12. It's another matter that I used to drive a 2-wheeler, and it was winter time, so I would wear a jacket and helmet, and nobody can make up that I'm moving. Perhaps because of that, but I would like to believe that Delhi is a safe city, at least for me. Or so we found I was touched by one thing, which is, of course, when people are working very hard, they don't care about what's happening around them. We shot with the various types of people who are working. We've never had any problem, and it was so safe. It was very safe. That's the only thing I want to say about the filming, and that it was very nice working with my collaborators, because we edited the film together. 7 days shoot, 10 days edit. Yes, there's one more thing I wanted to say. We started with PD 170, and then we realized it was giving a lot of breaks. So we quickly went and bought that's all we could afford. We bought a Canon 550D.
We can't hear you clearly.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Can you hear now? Is this better?
Yeah, I think better.
Yeah. Okay. See, we used the PD 170. And we shot for 1 day. The entire Bandwala sequence was shot with a PD 170 camera. We then realized the results were not good, and it was just tough handling more people. We just decided it will only be the 2 of us. So we quickly went and bought a Canon 550D. which is the lowest end, and that's all we could afford. And we were very happy with what we got. It's the digital photography or cinematography has just freed many of us, from the whole business of huge equipment, huge crew. It was almost liberating just to go with the small camera, just two people. We could just take a bike and go and shoot and come. Wonderful. It was my first film, so I thoroughly enjoyed myself doing the recce as well as the shoot. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Uma. Thank you. Yeah. Can I invite Sushma? I think Sushma, you spoke very little. If you want to add more.
Well, to add more, I guess there was a time when, after I made the film, I guess I'm going to take off from what you said about how to film. It is about language identity and about belonging in the city and post liberalization, which is like, after the 90s. And they were still holding on to this icon, who for me, Shankar Nag, is the fact that he did theater and then he did Malgudi Days, which was kind of pan-Indian. So I was trying to kind of, through the film, I think, trying to see what does it mean to kind of, what is this language identity that the auto driver community is holding on to. Over the little after I made the film, I mean, initially while I was making the film and little before I was making the film, and the reason why I got interested in making this film was because I was seeing this image of this face of this actor on windshields of auto rickshaws. A few years after I made the film, I saw that he was occupying windshields of tempos. It was almost like that generation of auto drivers who have kind of graduated from auto rickshaws to tempos maybe. But and then there were a few years, I mean, since the film is now about almost 10 years old, there was a time when I was not seeing the image anymore. His face had disappeared from the windshields. But so I don't know. I mean, this is, I think, post, I would say, 2014, 15, 16 is when, so I don't know if it was the language identity issue had been taken over by other beasts. But what I am seeing now is there has been a comeback recently. There is a comeback of his image, but not within the scope of the Kannadiga identity. There seems to be some kind of an independent kind of an identity that he still occupies outside of the language space, the identity space. So again, I don't know if that has happened because of other beasts, like I said. I mean, I don't know if language is now a non-issue because of other issues that have kind of taken over the space. Or because there was also there were the political parties which used to kind of sponsor these auto rickshaw stands. They used to sponsor these language, what do you call those, language chauvinist groups, which were like in abundance at that. They were like swelling all over the place. But even those have kind of taken a backseat, is what I'm seeing in Bangalore city. So these are just observations that have I've noticed in the last few years since I made the film. But otherwise, in terms of the film itself, I mean, I had a very interesting kind of an experiment because Bangalore didn't really have a documentary making. I mean, of course, there was Deepa, there was Chalam, but I tried something new with the distribution. So there's one particular shop called Total Kannada, which was kind of distributing all kinds of anything that was related to the language. So that shop can actually stock, I mean, I must have sold about 3,000 odd DVDs because this shop kind of stocked it, and then they were like distributors to other bookshops around the city. So I don't know, 3,000, I mean, I'm thinking it is 3,000, but I know that there was a time when I was just like, making like several DVDs to kind of keep meeting the demand. So yeah, so that was, I mean, I had forgotten that story. I just remembered it. And yeah, and I mean, off late it's been that, there are some very random people and from very unconnected places which are asking for the film. So I don't know why it has I mean, so when you kind of asked for it, I was like, what is this happening? Suddenly there seems to be an interest in the film after so many years. Yeah.
Yes, so there's a nice marriage of critique on capitalism, neoliberalism, and linguistic identity. I'm sure it will be definitely watched by many people. I'm not surprised. Hansa.
Yeah.
Hansa, yes.
My film is about two doll makers. And when I started making the film, I was making a film after a while. I kind of a little bit despaired at myself because I said that, you don't step out, you stay in. But having accepted that, I think about myself, I tried to delve a little deeper, I hope. And I myself make dolls. I'm not sure why I make dolls. And I think worked with two very different doll makers who are a little somewhat older than me. So I think for me, the experience was really about being with two older women who had invested an enormous amount of time and energy into doing work with their hands and work with their imaginations. So I think for me, um, I'm a product of a film school, and it's always been a question whether imagination can have a value. And I think that this film was a kind of continuing quest to try and understand if the imagination can have a value. I think for me, some of the most beautiful moments in the film is those days when the doll makers let us into the process. So there's Françoise, who is originally from Belgium, and she has been in India for quite a few decades now. Has worked with the church and has worked as a nurse. So I think for me, the idea that she nursed bodies and then those same hands were making dolls. She didn't want to talk about her experience as a nurse for various reasons. So it was a kind of a challenge to work with the dolls themselves and bring out the predicaments that she must have faced, the human predicaments. And the fact that instead of photographing them, she chose to go in the slow, time consuming work of creating dolls. And she gave those dolls colors and dignity and beauty. And there was a kind of fierceness to her voice, which I hope I'll always remember. And Milan, who's completely different doll maker, chose to move away from the kind of arts training that she had been trained in and started making very simple things with paper, little dolls and playful objects. And what I would see is how children around her who were who had easy access to her home inside the house. They'd be leaping over the balcony. She was on the ground floor, walking in. How they'd kind of disregard her dolls and they'd regard them, but not think too much of them. And I realized that, my God, this is her strength. She is not trying to show that I can do this. She is lightly doing something. And it's challenging and stimulating the children to work with their own fingers. So I think for me, the film was in part an attempt to understand something that I have wondered about for a long time, whether the imagination has a function in society, not just that it has and I think these two women, by dedicating their lives lives to both their memories and their imaginations in very different ways. I think what I really enjoyed about the film is later there was one meeting which is not in the film. I used to call it the Livingston meets whatever that, what is that? So one very tall doll maker, one very short doll maker met in one afternoon in Bangalore, and their sort of appreciation for each other's work, their ability to talk of different things through their work. And yeah, I think these are things that I hope I will remember for a long time. I mean, there were really lessons in dedicating yourself to something which is seemingly small, because it's only seemingly small, or it is small, but it is something and it's worth dedicating yourself to.
Thank you, Hansa. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. Yeah. So now if I think other filmmakers have explained elaborately. Maybe if they want to add more, otherwise I can go to the audience. Lipika is there. Nishtha, sorry, Nishtha.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, how much I'm enjoying listening to people about their process. So I really love this format where first people talked about what the film is about and the whole process and their, experience of it. So really enjoying this. I just taking on from where Hansa left, talking about little things, small things, I mean, I think most of my films are all about, outliers or banalities and small things, little things. And then, when you enter into this, you discover a whole world, like Rabindranath Tagore said that the whole world is in a dewdrop. And every time, that experience is there, like, because it's about really, looking and looking, and then things just unfold, like onion, like so many layers. So I actually right now presently I'm dealing with a big film and 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 it's so difficult because I've always started from something small and gone deeper, like vertical, and here I have something like a huge landscape, that I'm trying to handle, and I haven't done that before. So I'm finding it so difficult because I'm so used to that kind, the other kind of trajectory, which actually involves imagination, and unpeeling. So interesting because I just wanted to talk a little bit about At My Doorstep. And so, that film is completely banal in the sense it's about a watchman, the whole day he just either opens the gate or makes an entry, or he's sitting on, top of a tank, top of the building on a tank, and waiting for the water to fill up. Now, how much action is there? And or a garbage person doing, just repetitive actions, and so what do you or a delivery person, so what do you want to tell a story, but what do you do with this sort of limited things? And so, but when you spend time, you find out things. For example, I suddenly discovered that one of them is a kind of a poet watchman, not a great poet or something. And somewhere a lot of people, when they come to Bombay, they want to, they have the film industry in their mind. Somehow everybody thinks that they are a hero, of a film, and they are definitely heroes of their own film. So I said, okay, why don't you write your experience in Bombay as a film? So he, wrote it, scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. So I had him narrating. So stuff like this, little things like this, but also the experience of disappearing people, like migrant workers. Their life is so precarious. They don't know from one day to another, where, what job, they can lose a job suddenly, and then, disappear out of your life. So, you invested so much of your time and then that person is gone. And in that way, Ghayal was always one of my main protagonists. He was always the poet, watchman. Sorry. So, he kept on disappearing. And then I would find myself writing letters, like found his address and sending letters to his father, who then, would call up and say, okay, you can find him here or there. So, it's interesting stuff like that, but yeah, yeah, just that, like, but also discovered isness through that film, like how to be in that moment. For example, like through editing, how to experience the being there, that particular time. So in editing, so that you feel that you're there, and not making a montage of various stuff, but just being at the moment. And that's also highlighted with the way it is shot. And my camera person, Rakesh Haridas, he's always kind of, putting himself in the shoes of the character, and you can't tell after a point. So it's really such a subjective experience. So yeah, these kind of things, I get a lot of joy in sort of these kind of things, like discovering little things and small stories, but they're actually big stories, because they're also stories about people who are totally neglected, and about everyday things that we do not see, we do not want to see or acknowledge or engage with. So yeah, it's a very different experience. I just also wanted to add that Meera, it was so amazing to hear about your experience, and yeah, very moving. Thank you.
Thank you, Nishtha. Thank you. So now can I invite other friends who are there in the audience? They want to ask questions or comment on the films before I invite other filmmakers who are for the second round. We have Lipika. Lipika, do you have anything to say?
Hi everyone. It was so amazing to listen to you all. I mean, I don't have my film in this edition, but I was just here listening to everyone's process actually. As I was listening and I was sketching something and going into my journey, my film. And yeah, it's very nice. And thank you very much. I have no questions at this moment. I'm just, even Nishtha's film, Hansa's film, I think I have become a part of Hansa's film after a year or two, because I have started making dolls. I have become a doll maker, actually. So I have become a part of her film. I feel that way, an extension to her film. And listening to all the processes, I also feel as an extension of all these films, myself, because while making film, I also go through the same processes, conflicts and dilemmas, and how filmmakers deal with those. It's great to know how they personally deal with those conflicts and those dilemmas, and how they eventually make a film. That's such a big journey in itself. And to stand by the film, live the film for so many years. And I'm also going to live with my films for so many years, hopefully, and keep on making films. So it's such a great inspiration for me to listen to all of you. And I think everyone is going to speak more, and I'm here to listen for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Bye.
Lipika. Thank you, Lipika. So can I invite Ramdass? Ramdass, a filmmaker from Nishtha, you want to say something?
No.
Okay. Ramdass, a filmmaker from Kerala. He has made this film Mannu. He'll be selected IDSF. Okay. Ramdass, please go ahead.
Yeah, compared. Yeah, it's. I mean, as Lipika said, it's. I mean, great experience on listening all the filmmakers, and I should. I mean, appreciate Marupakam and Amudhan on. I mean, conducting such a film festival because it's just giving an opportunity to. I mean, watch different. Not only to watch different films, but also to listen the filmmakers, the process, and it's a very elaborate process. So, I mean, those who are interested on watching films and those who are interested to be a part of that filmmaking, but definitely this is a very important venue. So congratulating, I mean, congratulations to all the filmmakers who are the part of this. I mean, wonderful film festival and social justice film festival, as the name, I mean, mentioning. I mean, nowadays, I mean, some of the speakers already mentioned that, like, I mean, situations are changing, and wherever the justice is a question, so such films has to speak. I mean, there should be the films which has to speak a lot, and there should be, I mean, the platforms like this where the films should be discussed, and that way the democracy or whatever, the justice or whatever, it has to come. I mean, it's a very important role to play. Such venues have an important role to play in, I mean, moving forward as a, I mean, as a democratic society. So in that sense, all the films what is shown here is very important, and this film festival is also very important. Yesterday there was discussion which I was also a part of that. One online discussion was there, and in that one topic raised that what is the importance of the small film festivals. Like I mean, people were speaking about all the big film festivals like Goa Film Festival, IFFI or IDSFFK or such big names. But rather than the names, now we, I mean, altogether what is happening for the big film festivals, that there are some propaganda works, there's some kind of no, there's some political propaganda works or some kind of, like penetrations are working. And I mean, what is happening to the big film festivals like Goa and all over a period, what has happened, we all came to know. So definitely there should be the parallel film festivals like Social Justice Film Festival or whatever Marupakam is doing, or other kind of community, I mean, film screenings are happening all over India or whatever. So that is very important, because there should be a parallel platform for the wonderful films which are maybe not. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that is very important. That's from my side, and I am on the process of watching all the films. It's not finished so far. In that one film, I mean, one question I may be, if I'm allowed to ask a question. I may be it will be that Hansa's film, The Outside In. I find it different. Why? Because the editing method, what is chosen for. So I would like to listen it more like that editing, the style of editing. I mean, how it came, and what's the reason for choosing such a editing technique. That's all. Thank you for inviting.
Maybe you want to describe the editing technique that you, because for me it's such an instinct that I may not look at it as something different. What is it about the editing technique that felt
may not be the technique, but the style you have chosen for that, like
right,
the speed
using
or,
the animations, or
right, yes,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I think when you make a film, many things come into it together, and I think it's too long a story to tell these little bits, but I think that one of the reasons I started making dolls was I had an imagination that I'd make a fiction film with them one day. Forgetting that I that time didn't even have a camera, and I certainly didn't know what stop motion was. But actually, that's a kind of and then somewhere that desire to make a fiction film must have combined with a childhood attachment to dolls, which I had because I was spending a lot of time on my own as a child. It's difficult to trace it, but so when I saw the doll makers work, I mean, personally, I had decided, I just decided to make a film because I liked both their work, and their work was very different. So I myself did not know the exact logic of why the film was going to put the two doll makers work together, because they are so different. I mean, Francoise, who I said has worked as a nurse, you can see the dolls have a kind of there's a very moving doll from the Chipko movement about a woman hugging a tree trunk. So the dolls are like in frozen gestures, you know, like it's like finding a mudra, if I may say so, like of, and the doll is there. And Milan, whose little paper dolls are like jumping around. I mean, in my mind, they were jumping around. So I literally did what I felt about the dolls. That I felt that Milan's dolls were jumping around, so then I made them jump. And if that is the bit that you're asking about. And Francoise's, actually I would have liked them to come into that last position before they assume, but I realized the limbs were already stitched in place. So they, I mean, in the sense, she's decided that this action is where the doll is most expressive of the story that the doll is representing for Francois. But because the limb was, so I would have liked just that last fall into that freeze. In the absence of that, so I worked with the dolls as people, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say, as much as with the doll makers. So if these are the people, then who are the doll makers? And if the doll makers are the people, then who are the dolls? I like the idea of the scale, the difference of the human body, and then and one of the other decisions of, so these were things that I think drove the rhythms of the editing. I also, because like I said, that I kept trying to understand what to do with this contrast, and I struggled with many. I did a lot of the rough cut myself, and then this wonderful editor came called Ramaya came, and we did some great work together, I think, later. So I think that it was a big struggle for me. What do I do with these very different? I had originally thought of sort of mixing the two doll makers who are extremely different together. Then I felt no, that can't happen. And then I tried to put them separately. And then another very dear friend, Neeraj, said to me that don't work for their similarity, work for what is different in them. And then I went with that. And in doing that, I found the similarity. So I don't know if in this teda meda way I have sort of answered your question, but it was a slow, long teda meda way of, I think again it was trusting uh, small things that I saw. Like I remember an image from Rajasthan where sometimes on doorways I have seen the sun on moon, the one side, and the moon on one side. And I used to feel that maybe these two doll makers are like that. The way they look at the world are like that. You can look in daylight, you can look at night light. So I tried to find that balance in the edit.
Yeah, it's
If I
very
answered your
interesting.
question.
Thank you, Hansa.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Hansa. So yes. So we have Sridhar. Sridhar, do you have any questions, comments? Sridhar? We can't hear you. Are you speaking? Okay, so we'll wait for you. So let me go back to the filmmakers. Can I invite Pankaj? Pankaj, do you want to add anything? You stopped. Pankaj, do you want to add anything? Pankaj, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? What happened?
Maybe we can go to Swarnavel.
Maybe he stepped away for a small bit. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
He's texted saying that there is a problem. in his audio.
That's Shri.
Oh, that's Sridhar.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Hello?
We can hear you, Amudhan.
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear.
Okay. Pankaj, okay, he's not there.
He just stepped
Okay.
away briefly, you know, he'll come
I
back.
think
I'm sure.
Swarnavel, I think you can continue if you want to add
Yes,
something.
no, I mean, it was really wonderful, you know, listening to, the, lived reality, you know, of documentary filmmakers. Normally, it is about the lived reality of the subjects. So there are, you know, certain, you know, important, questions also raised. The one thing, you know, that as Nishtha pointed out, you know, about Hansa's, you know, film and their own work, that how the quotidian or the, you know, the everyday, you know, lived reality or life is, you know, so precious for documentarians to document. And there, I will recall Uma's words that, you know, that digital has allowed and enabled that possibility. Earlier also it was there with Sishnamam, and, you know, then you saw, you know, with Betacam, you know, other analog modes. But now with the digital, it becomes even more, you know, possible. And also to stay along with, you know, a character, and then, you know, without having this. For example, see, I will tell you, when I graduated, which was a long time back, in 81 from FTI, from 81 to 85, we will get, you know, from film division, some very marginal kind of money, say 40,000 rupees, you know, to make a film. And 26,000 will go in hiring, you know, paying rent for the 6mm camera. Can you believe, you know, particularly, you know, if you are going to many locales, you know, and they will come with the paraphernalia. It will come with one attendant, you know. So, you know, like, and you have to give them this beta, you know, the bata, they call, you know, the everyday thing according to union rules. They don't, you know, discriminate between, you know, fiction and non-fiction, low budget. So, you know, the tension was that when you are interviewing a person, you cannot continuously run your camera, you know. So it will all look so contrived because, you know, you are so anxious that he is not coming to, to the point which I want in my film. You know? So those great moments, you know, when you can stay with the, you know, documentary, you know, that as Nishtha was pointing out, see, my cameraman stays, you know, and then he gets into the, see, that time is needed, that duration is needed. You know, that money would, for example, you know, call that in many other words, you know, that he will quote Brassan, but ultimately it is about that contingency. Even for that, you have to wait. See, it cannot happen if you are always anxious. I might run out of my raw stock, you know. So just imagine the blessing, you know, that, you know, this I tell all my students, you know, that this is unimaginable, you know, that today you can buy, you know, 1 or 2 TVs for, you know, which is so affordable for anybody. Isn't it? Not even like 5 years back, you know. So that is something very, you know, phenomenal. So that is also allowing us to stay with the quotidian and create this great poetry, you know, through cinema. You know, so I am so heartened that, you know, you are all talking about, you know, this process. See, on the one hand, yes, you know, as Debaranjan pointed out, there is this digital capitalism, you know, there is this, you know, thing. But on the other hand, we would also think of, you know, this democratization and the affordances which digital allows us. You know, that is very important.
You know,
And
I've
the
always,
next, yes.
I just
Yes.
wanted to add to your point. I've always called myself a filmmaker, you know, because piracy is allowed. I was
Yes.
able to edit my first film because
Yes.
at that time the budgets were so low. We had to,
Yes.
you know, buy a
Yes.
pirated software.
Yes. Yes.
And you know, so I'm a product of, you know, piracy, the filmmaker. So
No,
it's
no,
so important.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Nishtha. You know, that, see, I'm so heartened, you know, like earlier when I used to go to Madras, they will have everything, no? Final Cut Pro, Adobe. Here you can't, you know, like, so, you know, there is that facility also, you know, that, you know, intelligent editor who is involved with all that, he will also have, you know, all the latest software, and, you know, and he's also, you know, training himself in it or herself in it. And, you know, that is the other wonderful thing, you know. And I
Swarnavel,
mean, going back to
Swarnavel.
your own work, like a city of photos, that, isn't it? I mean, you start from a small photograph and it goes into, yeah. Yeah, Amudan. One more
Swarnavel,
point. One more point, Amudan.
we have a question.
Yes.
Our friend Bhaskaran is here. He wants to ask you something. So you may have to
Yes.
listen to the question and translate
yes,
the question.
absolutely.
For
Absolutely.
2 jobs.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
சார் வணக்கம்.
வணக்கம் வணக்கம்.
நேற்று தான் உங்க டாக்குமெண்ட்ரி பார்த்தேன் சார், ரொம்ப நல்லா இருந்தது.
தேங்க்யூ.
சுனாமியை பத்தி
மிக்க நன்றி.
சிறந்த பதிவு.
தேங்க்யூ. மிக்க நன்றி.
அதுல வந்து ஒரு ராதாகிருஷ்ணனை பத்தின ஒரு பதிவு, அது ரொம்ப எனக்கு இன்ஸ்பைரிங்கா இருந்தது. அவர் அங்க கலெக்டரா இருக்கும்போது இந்த அளவுக்கு அங்க ஒரு மிகச்சிறப்பான அந்த பணியை முயற்சி இருக்காரு. அந்த குழந்தைகள்லாம் அவரை இன்னும் அப்பான்னு அழைக்கும் போது அது நிறைய விஷயங்களை அதை பதிவு பண்ணிச்சு. உங்க அந்த பிலிம் லாங்குவேஜ்ல எனக்கு அந்த அந்த ஒப்பாரியில வந்து அந்த கடல் அலைகள்ல வந்து நீங்க அதை போடும்போது மோர் இம்பாக்டா இருந்தது.
தேங்க்யூ. Let me also talk about Bhaskaran here. He has been involved with the Film Society movement, and he is also a wonderful director. And that continuing the discussion we had on Muslim representation, what Meera was talking about, that is an area he also specializes that in the Tamil Nadu context. He's an important filmmaker who has recently also made a feature film. So Bhaskaran is asking me that about the foregrounding of the voice of the state in Radhakrishnan, and he found it poignant and moving. It is always also difficult nowadays to say that there is this sane voice within government. I got that inspiration because once I was listening to the great Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak. So Spivak, she had come to Iowa and she was telling us that how that when she wanted to get into action, putting her all theory into some kind of a lived reality, when she wanted to start the schools in Bengal, she realized that she has to have some kind of a collaboration with the state because already they have this huge network. Otherwise, it's impossible. So then she said, how see her own theory of what she calls as strategic essentialism. That how we have to use certain strategies. Agree to disagree, but yet like this is similar, like some of you would be making, like as Pramod was pointing out, say with NGO, you're trying to make a film. What I would say is this also goes back to Meera's own question, that about justice. Because see, I always believe, because earlier my Thambi, Amudhan had asked me to give the keynote address for his social justice festival at Max Muller Bhavan. And that space I revere because, when we were struggling, Prasanna Ramaswamy used to provide the space for us to screen our films. So there in that keynote itself, I had said about this, and I quoted Derrida, when he talks about how, justice is something, pure, isn't it? I mean, we want justice, because that is what will make, life, our nostalgia, our utopian ideas worthwhile. Because it is with imagination, we cope, we put up with this life, as so pointed out. But yet he says, justice is always going to, arrive tomorrow, isn't it? It is always going to be there, but it is always going to be there, So therefore, Gayatri strategic essentialism. So what is it we have to do today is to keep doing what we have been doing, isn't it? That is what gives meaning to our life.
Yes.
So one could argue, yes, today all that I have is only law, but not justice. But see, if you are not struggling to hold on to that, even that will go away. See, if you look at all these fights for the undermining of democracy everywhere, in the US, in UK, in India, what we consider as the largest democracies, you can see, isn't it? So therefore, all the more I think this also harks back to the point which that wonderful gentleman asked about the small film festivals. this is equally important, and it is even more important now when we have, because of the digital, so many, films coming, which is wonderful, but
Yes,
also we
yes.
need spaces to screen them.
Okay.
Alternative festivals and spaces to screen, so that, we can screen the film and have discussions.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Swarnavel.
Yes.
So let me just, I think we can just have a final, Pramod, do you want to say something? Before I think it's already 8:49. Pramod?
Thank you, Manjakin, and
Final
thank you for
remarks,
this
yeah.
platform. Thank you for the platform. It's very important. Like, it is also very important for the times. Actually, it is an alternative truth which is being created every day in India now. It is also very important that as the eyes of the society or the world or whatever, we document these changing times as of now. And like people have pointed out, there are opportunities that we can use digital medium. Even now, you can actually use your mobile phones, and 600 rupees worth of application. Even people are shooting feature films with that kind of setup. So it is quite possible that, and it is very important that, especially in these times, like though digital mediums are available, the access is there. But the real, like for instance, I was in Delhi for until last year. It is quite difficult to pull out your camera in the open in Delhi and shoot without a policeman questioning you nowadays, because every day there is a kind of a censorship which is happening. So we also have to find ways and means of documenting our times, probably for posterity, but it is very important that we do it now, because it's also our responsibility to do it. We have the capability to do it, and it is our responsibility to do it in whichever way we'll interpret it later. But it is very important that we actually record it now, as of now.
Okay.
Thank you. I hope we could actually turn this into some kind of collaboration or whatever. Like, some people would have, equipment. Some people would have, resources and things like that. We would be very happy to collaborate with anybody who is interested in doing any of these kind of things.
Thank you, Pramod. Pankaj, we were looking for you. You want to say something? Your final remarks, Pankaj? Okay.
I think Nishtha wants to say something.
Nishtha?
Amudhan, I just wanted to thank you also, and also actually point out how, important these small festivals are, given the whole atmosphere of big festivals, A-list festival, and competitiveness that goes with them, and kind of a toxicity, that filmmakers feel that they are nothing if they are not part of these big festivals. So I think in that context, also to have small festivals which are not competitive, where everybody gets a platform, and also that they are not so resource intensive. This is very important, and I think in terms of, if we look at filmmaking as also an activity that speaks to the ethics, not just within the film, but outside, also in the making, I think it's important that such festivals flourish. Thank you for
thank you
Nishtha.
Thank you. Meera, do you want to say something? Meera, you want to add something? Final marks, almost 9.
Final remarks, just I want to say thank you to everyone. It was delightful to meet all because you are more experienced than me.
We can't hear you, Meera.
Just need to be a bit loud.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm saying that I've learned a lot in this small discussion. I picked up points from all the filmmakers, the difficulties they faced, how they did how Hansa told what she used, what technique she used during the editing, and the banality of life Nishtha spoke about, and all other filmmakers. So thank you so much. Thank you.
So, Amudhan, let me also thank you and your team.
Thank you,
for not only doing it this year, but for decades, in Madurai, and then bringing it also to Chennai, it's a lot of work, Amudhan, and also, to straddle between filmmaking and curating and organizing and giving a voice to people on the fringes, through the films,
Yes,
which
yes.
you have been doing right from the beginning. We are
Thank you.
all, I'm particularly, grateful to you for
Thank you.
the precious time and work which goes into it.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And also thank you to all the participants and fellow filmmakers.
Debaranjan, wait. Debaranjan, let me just. Debaranjan. Final marks, Debaranjan.
Nothing. Just I'm listening. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, do it more and more film festivals.
Yes.
And
So let me just introduce let me just show our team here. We have Prince. We have Prince, who is part of Periyar self-respective media. So they have provided the hall and everything. So he's Bhaskaran. Filmmaker. He's Senthil, filmmaker, camera person, editor. All in all, Alagaraj. So thank you all. Thank you all for joining.
Thank
So
you, Bhaskaran. Thank you, Bhaskaran, sir, and Prince. Thank you.
Can I request the filmmakers if I can extend the online screening for one more day?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
no problem. Yes.
One more day, so that because more people are showing interest in online screening watching. So one more day. Okay.
Why one more? You can keep it open also. There's no problem.
Okay.
As long as you
Same,
want.
you can keep open.
10 years ho gaya.
Seriously, mine also you can keep.
Okay.
Happy if people want to see.
He wants to thank. Prince wants to thank.
Hi everybody. I wish to thank everyone who gave permission to screen your documentaries and movies to show here, and for the extra one day allowance web screening too. And it's a great pleasure to meet you all in a Zoom meeting, even in this pandemic period. And as a part of Periyar Self-Respect Media Department, I wish to invite you all to Periyar Thidal. Whenever you have a chance to visit Tamil Nadu, don't hesitate to.
Oh, we lost your voice.
I think
Hello?
it's frozen. Yeah, can you say that again?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Whenever you get to visit, get a chance to visit Chennai, I invite everybody to Periyar Thidal, and we can arrange special screening. And we have Amudhan here. He will arrange all the rest of things, and he can plan for us. And once again, I welcome you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Of Dravida Kalagam, which is started by Periyar.
Yes.
Prince is not Prince is a special person. VIP is a youth wing secretary of Dravida Kalagam. So he's a Periyar's director.
And he's also a trained filmmaker. He's also a trained filmmaker, academically trained filmmaker.
Yeah, he's a direct lineage of Periyar.
Madras School, Madras Film School. And what Prince says, I would also reiterate, because see, when you get down at Central Station, which is where where you land up, it's very close by. Maybe in 5 minutes, you can take an auto and reach. And that it's a wonderful place where you under one roof. You have the entire collection of great books of Dravidian ideologues, many of them translated recently in English, so you can buy all those books as well. So please that mark it in your calendar. Even if you are busy and visiting Madras, pay a visit to Periyar Thidal.
Thank you all. Good night. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Really lovely meeting you all.
Manakam. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks all.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Nishtha, thanks for the compliment.
Bye.
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 Bye.